First, she gathered some of the waste and contaminated water to use for the following day, before finding her own supply. Remember, this stays between us. I'm sharing this with you because you sell at school. Otherwise, I wouldn't tell anyone. I don't want anyone stepping on my toes. Oma bought the food and took it back to her class. When she arrived, she started eating. Wow, this food is so amazing, she exclaimed. Upon hearing this, her classmates started extending their hands, asking her to share some. She shared a little, and soon they were hooked. This is so fantastic, they said, rushing out of the class to buy more. Before long, the entire class was lining up to buy from Mama Grace's store. Royal Crest Girls High School is a large institution, a boarding school for girls only. There was a woman named Mama Grace, known to everyone as Mama Food. That's how the students referred to her, and she was the only one permitted to sell food on campus. Every day, Mama Grace sat beneath the mango tree, arranging hot pots filled with rice, beans, soup, and fried plantains she had prepared herself. However, most students ignored her food, preferring the snacks and sugary treats from the school stock shop. Mama Grace wondered why the students didn't seem interested in her cooking. It was just like any other roadside food. She sat quietly each day, hoping someone would stop by. Only a few would, and when they did, it was because hunger had overpowered them. They would buy a little only to wait for the school dinner bell. Mama Grace secretly reheated the leftover food for the next day, but if the student didn't buy it, she would have no choice but to throw it away as it would spoil. She was growing desperate. One evening at 6 p.m., Mama Grace decided to visit a popular food seller in the area, known for her delicious meals. People gathered around her store in droves, chatting and eating eagerly. Her food was so sought after that people waited patiently just to taste it. Mama Grace approached the store and greeted the seller, explaining her problem. The students at my school don't buy my food, she said anxiously. They pass by me every day and head straight to the school shop for snacks. What's your secret? How do you make your food so irresistible? Mama Oka listened carefully and then looked around to make sure no one was eavesdropping. She leaned in and whispered, "This isn't something we can discuss here. Come to my house tonight at 10 p.m. and we will talk." Mama Grace nodded, filled with both curiosity and unease. What could be so important that it had to be kept secret? That night, she couldn't sleep, her mind racing with questions. She checked the time again and again. At 9:50 p.m., she got dressed and headed for Mama Oka's house. When she arrived, Mama Oka greeted her with a serious expression. "Are you ready for this?" she asked. Mama Grace, still uncertain, nodded. "I want the students to buy my food. I'll do anything to make it happen." Mama Oka led her to the backyard, where a small kitchen filled the air with a terrible odor. Dirty pots sat by, filled with waste, and large barrels of water stood in the corner. The stench was unbearable. "This is my kitchen," Mama Oka said proudly. "What is this?" Mama Grace gasped, holding her nose. "I thought your kitchen was in front by the store." "That's the kitchen I allow people to see," Mama Oka replied. "This is where the real magic happens." "Here?" Mama Grace was shocked. "What do you do with all this mess?" Mama Oka smiled gently. "This is where I get my secret ingredients. You see these barrels of water? It's water from the cemetery. I use it in my cooking. Along with this," she pointed to the pots filled with waste. "Whenever I need to poo, I do it here. The waste has special preservatives to keep it from spoiling. When I cook, I mix the cemetery water with the waste, perform some incantations, and my food is ready." Mama Grace stood still, stunned. Would she really do something like this to succeed? After much thought, she agreed to try it. The next day, Mama Grace followed the instructions carefully. She added just a little of the waste to the food so it wouldn't smell too bad. Then used the cemetery water, chanting the incantations. Once done, she packed the food and carried it to school, waiting for the bell. When break time came, only one student, a JS2 girl named Oma, came to buy the food. She returned to her class and started eating. Wow, this food is so amazing, she exclaimed. Her classmates begged her to share some, and soon the entire class was rushing to buy Mama Grace's food. Word spread quickly, and within a week, even teachers were lining up for a test. However, strange things started to happen. More and more students were getting sick, complaining of stomach aches and vomiting. No one suspected Mama Grace as she had been selling food in the school for so long. Parents started calling the school concerned about their children's health. Oma, the first student to buy Mama Grace food, was taken to the hospital after falling ill seriously. The principal, frustrated by the situation, ordered the staff to provide cleaner food and water. Mama Grace soon realized she couldn't keep up with the demand for waste and cemetery water. She found another source, an unfinished building where students secretly went to relieve themselves. Despite the illegality, the students didn't care. Every evening, Mama Grace would sneak into the building, gathering waste to use for her food. More students kept falling ill, but she was making so much money that she didn't care. Concerned parents began to ask questions. What are they feeding our children? One mother asked angrily. Another shouted, our kids are getting sick. What kind of food are you giving to them? Mrs. Damian, the school's headmistress, called the cooks into her office. After firing the kitchen staff, she imposed strict new rules. From now on, no student is allowed to call home for any reason. If there is a problem, we will handle it here. Do you understand? Everyone nodded in agreement. Meanwhile, Mama Grace continued to sell her food under the mango tree, smiling quietly to herself. Business was booming, but when her daughter Angel came to visit, she noticed something strange. Angel saw Mama Grace stop her from eating the food, which made her suspicious. Two students, Comfort and Jecinta, also became curious. They decided to follow Mama Grace after school, and as they watched her gather waste from the abandoned building, they began to piece together the horrifying truth. Determined to expose her, they followed Mama Grace from a distance, trying to remain unnoticed. What they discovered would shake the entire school. Quietly, they followed her from a distance, staying out of sight. Mama Grace didn't seem to notice them as she made her way towards the unfinished building. Comfort and Jecinta watched carefully from behind a corner as Mama Grace entered the building. Comfort's eyes widened in shock when she saw Mama Grace scoop something from the ground and place it in a cooler. What is she doing? Jecinta whispered, a disgusted expression on her face. I don't know, Comfort responded, her voice shaky, but we need to find out. Mama Grace casually covered the cooler, scanned her surroundings to ensure no one was watching, then walked towards the school gate. Comfort and Jecinta exchanged a look of concern and followed her, making sure to keep their distance. When Mama Grace reached the gate, she stepped outside the compound. The two girls stopped in their tracks. We can't go past the gate, Jecinta murmured, frowning. The security won't let us out, Comfort sighed, frustrated. What do we do now? After a few moments of silence, Comfort had an idea. What if we follow the fence? Jecinta hesitated, her face full of worry. What if they catch us? Think about it, Jecinta. Comfort urged. We can't just sit here. We have to find out what she's doing. Our friend has been sick in the hospital for weeks. This could be the clue we need. Jecinta bit her lip. her anxiety mounting. But what if something goes wrong? What if we get caught? We will be careful, Comfort assured her. We have come this far, we can't back down now. Jecinta thought about it for a moment, then reluctantly agreed. Okay, but if we get caught, I'm blaming you. Comfort smiled, feeling a little more confident. Trust me, we will be fine. They snuck to the back of their hostel, where the fence stood tall. They quickly changed into more insuspicious clothes to avoid being noticed. The fence was high, but they walked together, helping each other climb over it without making a sound. Once on the other side, they crouched low to the ground, making sure to stay hidden. Mama Grace had already walked quite a distance. The girls hurried to close the gap, moving quickly but cautiously. Finally, Mama Grace arrived at her house and dropped the cooler by the back door before entering. We should go back to school now, Jecinta said in a soft voice, feeling uneasy. No, Comfort replied firmly. We need to stay here until we know for sure what she's doing. Are you crazy? Jecinta gasped. Where are we going to sleep? And what about the danger? We will find somewhere, Comfort said with determination. We have to do this. I need to prove to my parents that I'm not useless. This is my chance. Jacinta hesitated but saw the resolve in Comfort's eyes. Alright, but I'm not doing this again if we get caught. Together they found shelter in a nearby store and decided to wait until morning. Meanwhile, the hostel mistress did her usual rounds, checking the girls' rooms. When she reached Comfort and Jacinta's dorm, she noticed their beds were empty. Where are Comfort and Jecinta? She asked the other girls in the dorm, her eyes narrowing. We don't know, ma, the girls answered, shaking their heads. The mistress frowned, writing their names down in her book. I will report this to the authorities in the morning. They have broken the rules. At dawn, Comfort and Jecinta woke up, shivering in the cold morning air. They peered around the corner and saw Mama Grace come out of her house. They quickly hid, watching her every move. She went straight to the cooler, opened it, and a foul stench filled the air. Jacinta covered her nose, almost gagging. What is she doing? Jacinta whispered, her face twisted in disbelief. Comfort was silent, her focus entirely on the scene. She pulled out the phone she had secretly brought to school and began recording. Mama Grace took some of the contents from the cooler and put it into a small bowl. She walked over to a nearby drum of water, dipped a container inside, and poured water into the bowl. Then she stirred the mixture slowly. Jacinta's eyes widened. She's going to cook with that? She exclaimed in a hushed tone. Comfort didn't respond. Her attention was fixed on the phone, making sure she captured every detail. Mama Grace moved towards her cooking area, where several pots and firewood were set up. She placed the bowl on the ground and began lighting the fire. Comfort zoomed in on her phone to make sure the video captured everything. The cooler, the drum, the bowl, and the disgusting preparation. She held her breath, terrified that any sound might alert Mama Grace to their presence. After they had enough footage, the two girls sneaked back into the school, careful to avoid being seen. As they returned to their hostel, they wanted to clean up, but there was no time. The hostel mistress was already yelling at everyone to assemble for morning roll call. Everyone out now to the assembly ground, she shouted. Comfort and Jacinta quickly dressed in their uniforms, barely taking a beat, and hurried to the assembly ground, pretending nothing was out of the ordinary. As they walked, Jacinta whispered nervously, What will you do with the phone? If you show them the video, they will take it from you. Comfort frowned. You are right. I can't let them seize my phone. I will find another way. They joined the line of students, trying to look calm and collected, but the anxiety was growing. Mrs. Damian, the principal, stood at the front of the assembly, her eyes scanning the crowd. She began with her usual announcements, talking about upcoming events and reminding the students to follow the rules. Just as the crowd settled, Mrs. Damian picked up a sheet of paper and cleared her throat. I have a list of students who broke the rules last night, she announced in a cold voice. Comfort and Jecinta exchanged nervous glances. They stood frozen, trying to look composed, but their hearts were pounding. One of the students is Comfort, Mrs. Damian said sharply, and Jecinta. The air around them went still. Comfort's breath caught in her throat. She had no choice now. I need to explain, Comfort said quickly, pulling out her phone. I have proof of why we did what we did. The assembly erupted in whispers, the students turning to look at Comfort as she unlocked her phone and walked towards Mrs. Damian. The principal eyed the phone, her expression skeptical. Comfort pressed play, showing the video. Mama Grace's face appeared on the screen, scooping poop and mixing it with water. The principal watched in stunned silence, her eyes widening as she saw the horrifying footage. What is this? She gasped. It's the truth, Comfort said firmly. This is what Mama Grace uses to prepare her food. Gasps of disbelief spread through the assembly. Before anyone could react, Mama Grace, who had been standing near the edge of the crowd, turned and tried to slip away. But the school security was quick to catch her before she could leave. Stop her, Mrs. Damian yelled, and the guards rushed to restrain Mama Grace. They dragged her back to the assembly ground, where she stood with her head down in shame. Mrs. Damian didn't waste any time. Take us to your kitchen, she ordered. Reluctantly, Mama Grace led them to the back of her store. The smell was overpowering, and the sight of the cooler, the drum, and the filthy cooking area left the teachers and security horrified. How could you do this? One of the staff members asked in disgust. The truth was out. The student had been eating Mama Grace's poisonous food all along. The police arrived shortly after, and Mama Grace was arrested. Her silence spoke volumes as she was led away. Turning to Comfort and Jecinta, Mrs. Damian said, You have done something brave today. You have saved us all. Jecinta, still wiping her tears, smiled weakly. Comfort stood taller than ever before, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. Mrs. Damian looked at them sternly, but with a hint of respect. You have earned my trust, but that doesn't mean you can break the rules. No more phones in school, she said. However, as a reward, I won't punish you. She handed each of them an envelope, which they opened to find money and a note thanking them for their courage. The news spread quickly. Parents were notified, and the story was posted in the school's Parents Teachers Association group. When Comfort got home, her parents were overjoyed. You have made us proud, her mother said, pulling her into a tight hug. You have proven that you are capable of great things. Comfort beamed with happiness. Finally, she felt seen and valued. From that day on, Comfort and Jecinta were held as heroes by their peers and teachers alike. And as for Mama Grace, she sat in a police cell facing her punishment while her secret was exposed for the world to see. Hi besties, we have finally come to the end of this amazing story. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this story. Before I go, I have an advice for everyone out there. Always be mindful of what you eat. If possible, try and cook your own food as it's more healthier and safe. I sincerely appreciate your support. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more interesting stories. Thank you once again for watching, and I will see you in our next story. Bye.